while I've been away, there's another thing that the gurus have basically been talking about, a new fatty acid that they've sort of discovered. Apparently, it was from Navy research that looked into dolphins, and then they realised that it is important for humans as well, and all that sort of stuff that had some benefits in the body with cell membranes and stuff like that. So um, people got all wound up and really crazy about it and started doing some little studies here and there and some bullshit control studies because they weren't really properly done. But I'm not going to go into it into the studies. I've looked at them. Trust me, there's nothing impressive. Some of the actual in vitro studies were poorly done. I mean, poorly done. There's a lot of industry studies. Obviously, they're selling supplements. I'm not saying that this fatty acid isn't an essentially important fatty acid. Yes, it is. But on a carnivore diet, on an animal-based diet, you'll get plenty. You do not have to supplement. Now, on a veganerized diet, the only highest sources are really things like herbs and spices. You may need to. On a plant-based diet, it may be something that somebody has to supplement. But then again, when we look at the plant-based people, they have a cabinet full of supplements, and some of you have been there in the past. So a lot of people now, a lot of the gurus are out there sort of touting C15 as the next best thing since sliced bread or whatever. So pentadecanoic acid is the new buzz, the new miracle fatty acid out there that will grow you a second head and you'll be able to compete with us Tasmanians. There you go. So let's take a look at some of this sort of stuff, what the gurus are saying. Let me share my screen. And so when we look at the actual, this is on PubMed, which is under the National Institute of Health. For those who are not aware, this was published in Nutrients, which is a well-known journal that covers a lot of the different studies that are done on different micronutrients and fatty acids and and whatever else that are out there, different that look at compounds and stuff like that, both in vivo and in vitro studies. So in vivo, in an actual living organism, which can be an animal model or human or whatever, in vitro petri dish. But even the petri dish ones, oh god. Anyway, there was either no control, and then the control was they didn't actually put all the sort of, like, if you've got a liquid solution which you've got the fats in, you've got to put a liquid in one of them and the other to make sure that, because you have to put this fatty acid into that liquid in order to basically allow it to, be distributed much more evenly in the petri dish. Well, you should be putting the same liquid in the other just to basically exclude the effects of potentially the liquid itself. You would think. So there's a lot of poor research that has been done on this fatty acid. Now, obviously, there is some that has shown some level of benefit, but the majority of benefits where I've seen actually where there's good p-values, which usually are p-values of 0.001, 0.005 and stuff like that, are usually when it comes to liver markers. So it seems that's where obviously, better liver function is an important thing, but I don't think you're going to see it in other people other than, people that are on inappropriate diets. So people that are basically on diets which are very high in seed oils, carbohydrates, the SAD diet, they're going to see very little benefit from supplementing this sort of stuff, because you're already doing a lot of damage to your mitochondria through a lot of the reactive oxygen species, the primary, secondary oxidative products, and a lot of other things. But at the same time, you're not going to actually get a lot of benefits if you're on a poor diet. But unfortunately, they're sort of selling it as the next best thing. And most people that are on sad diets that are in the general community tend to have been propagandized so long for so many years. They think that a solution comes not out of a diet but out of a pill, which is unfortunate, but that's the reality. Let's face it in that regard. So so you sort of pronounce, and I'm dyslexic, so I'm going to be very poor at this. So you go pentadecanoic acid. That's how it actually. I'll just be using C15. So you don't have. So I'll give you less reasons to laugh about my dyslexia. Anyway, essential on-chain fatty acid with broad activities relevant to protecting cardiometabolic function, immune, and liver health. We see a lot in the liver literature, a lot of improvements in sort of the liver enzymes and stuff like that. Like ALT, things like that improve. Anyway, so seems to activate AMPK, so does fasting, so does a ketogenic diet. Inhibits mTOR. Yeah, please tell us where it inhibits mTOR. Please tell me, where does it inhibit mTOR? Oh, that's right, in the fat cells. In a sort of a Randall cycle activated state on an excess energy, because they do talk about, some of the gurus talk about the excess energy diets, the so-called fat, what they're always talking about, the metabolically deranged fat-based diet, which high-fat diet, which really what they mean is the SAD diet, a Randall cycle, mixed sugar with a lot of seed oils. That's what they're really talking about. Why don't they just tell us? And why don't they tell us where it inhibits mTOR? Well, we know it's in the fat cells, and obviously, sugar in a Randall cycle state has this signaling effect. It has to do with, you've got excess sugar, you can't put it away. Now you have to force it to be converted into fat to be stored. And obviously this excess, the signaling molecules that actually are activating mTOR and IGF-1 and insulin inside the fat cells to store more of the stuff, the excess. That's why it's associated. mTOR, IGF-1, insulin are associated, but it's in the fat cells. So get it right, guys, because when you use leucine, you don't see that. You only see it in the musculoskeletal. When you use leucine supplementation, even in a fasted state with high AMPK, which we know is really good, well, claimed, but it is. What do we see? We see the activation of IGF-1, insulin, mTOR in the tissues that we want. So we don't increase sarcopenia or osteoporosis. Okay, that's where we want these things being activated to basically build that tissue, not the stuff, the love handles, so to speak. So it really annoys me that they don't differentiate. Anyway, let's move on. I've been annoyed. God, I'm as bad as Ted when he gets annoyed. I can understand Ted and sympathise. Well, both of which are core components of the human longevity pathway. Another motherhood statement. Have you got a long-term lock-in study for that? But you don't. To assess the potential of C15 to enhance processes associated with longevity and health span. I'd say health span, longevity is another kettle of fish. Depends on a lot of factors. But obviously, if you're if it is an essential fatty acid and important in terms of cellular function and cellular repair, and so in that regard, yes. And if you're on a poor diet with a lot of Randall cycle activation, a SAD diet, we see reduced amounts because a lot of these beneficial nutrients like glutathione and all that are being overused because you're on the wrong diet. And that's why these things go down. It's not that it's the deficiency that these people claim. Oh, it's the deficiencies these people have. No, they probably are getting a certain amount from some of the animal foods that they're consuming, but then all the other stuff that they're doing wrong that are highly inflammatory, like excess seed oils and refined sugars and all that they're having deleterious effects, which obviously are taxing B vitamins, all this. This is why B vitamins are associated, why all these compounds are associated. The body requires a lot of different micro and macronutrients to function optimally. And you can get them on a carnivore diet specifically. The things that are essential are amino acids, fatty acids, and a whole lot of compounds that we're discovering all the time that are in animal foods. And that's really what we need. We don't need supplements, and we need to get off poor diets. Poor diets are the problem. That's where really, once you actually move away from those poor diets, you see improvements that are clinically really strong improvements. That some case studies where doctors have actually recorded their clients who have gone on low inflammatory, ketogenic or carnivore diets and seen massive improvements in their health. So, and those are clinically significant, quite clear relationships that things turn around in terms of a lot of the inflammatory markers, poor health, prognosis that existed in those people, beyond just the weight loss that everybody gets wrapped up about. So these are the things that we should be more concerned about rather than a lot of the claims, which are very hard to prove. Yes, we do see some improvements in micromole. It's usually about, I think, around 20, where we see it with C15. It's sort of that sort of ultimate sweet spot. But anyway, and yes, we do see a number of the inflammatory markers go down. And some of the interleukins in particular, I mean, tumor necrosis factor is a big one, but some of these interleukins, interleukin 17A is a big one, and it's associated with a lot of things, with cancer, with all sorts of things. So, yeah. Antifibrotic, taurine does that as well. But that's another thing that's highly concentrated in animal foods. And we get plenty of it as well, because if we've got healthy pancreas, we can synthesize plenty from methionine and cysteine. Anyway, so 24 activities across 10 cell systems. Anyway, which are further supported by previous publications in vitro and in vivo studies. Yes and no. It seems like the liver stuff seems to be much better than some of the others, which is a bit less convincing for me personally. Probably more studies need to be done, but it seems to be much better at sort of improving liver markers that I've seen with good p-values in that regard. Because really what a p-value tells you, the likelihood it was something else is unlikely. So that's what really a p-value says. So the lower that number, p 0.001, and I've seen a lot of, slightly above, like I think the highest I saw was 0.005. But there's in sort of the dosage range. In lower dosages, I saw some poorer p-values, but there was other confounding variables, and so it was a bit mixed. And so whether at that 20 micromole, I'm still not certain in that regard. Anyway, so the epidemiological in vivo and in vitro studies support the notion of 100 to 300 milligrams of C15 is needed daily to effectively maintain active circulating C15 concentrations of 10 to 30 micromoles, and the sweet spot is about 20, which is 200 milligrams. Just remember, these are the sort of the bottom to the upper limit of what they consider seems to show improvements on a number of biomarkers. As such, there is a building evidence for minimum daily C15 requirements and defined C15 nutritional deficiencies. Anyway, so they talk about APK, PARPs, activation, as well as all these other pathways. Also, lower cholesterol, not that that's important. It just basically means that the liver is functioning better and actually can clear stuff out a bit better. But again, that is affected by the type of some of the other genetics. How many receptor sites do you have on, the ApoE type, which is, your 2, your 3, and your 4, which I've done a video. It's in the playlist that I did with Pim Johnson, and you can actually find it there where I cover that. But obviously, if you've got more receptor sites, and you can clear it, but it seems to work because if the liver is working better, it should be able to uptake these faster and actually recycle them and stuff like that. So it's probably more to do that you're actually getting the liver to work properly. That's actually having this effect on these lipids. So in that regard. Anyway, so APO1 and ApoB liver enzymes and C-reactive protein, blah, 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 and the adipokines, body mass index, and improved insulin sensitivity. It seems to have a sensitizing effect on insulin, as they call it. So it seems to improve the cell's uptake of glucose, and so better functioning. And is it because it's actually helping with reparative, so these things function better? Possibly. There seems to also have an effect on pyruvate dehydrogenase and as well. So there's a lot of things that are related to this. I'm not going to go, this is probably for another video. I'm sort of trying to cover, do we get enough? Do we need a supplement? These are the things that I'm covering in this video. That's why I'm not going into the studies. I'm just sort of giving you a general outline in this regard. I'm not going to cover that. So I'll link this, and people, if they want to go and read it, that's up to them, and then they can ask me questions about specifics of this. So let's move on. Okay, so what are the experts? What the experts are saying? I wonder what. And which experts? This is one of those supplement companies, Fatty 15. You've probably seen a number of your gurus that some of you also subscribe to, I suspect, that look at those people like these sort of characters. Dr. Will Cole and Dr. Mark Hyman. So Cole says, well, this is This is massive science. It's going to help everybody because it's so fundamental to human health. Yep, yes, this fatty acid is important in, proper cellular function. I don't dispute that, but do we need to supplement? That's the question. One of my favourite longevity boosting supplements, I bet it is. Why don't you eat a steak, mate? Eat a couple of, not eat one steak, eat 3 steaks. Even better for you. Anyway, C15 acts as an armour for your cells, strengthening cell membranes, repairing mitochondria, and reversing the hallmarks of aging. Thank you very much. I'll eat a steak and get all that anyway. We got Thomas and that Bidam, very popular nutritional gurus out there. If you use omega-3s, I encourage you to check out Fatty 15. One of the most important things that is to do, can do is to repair actual damage to the cells. Just eat a steak, Thomas. That's all you need. This is part of the building block that you need for everything else to work properly. So it's important and foundational to health. Thank you, Nat, for that. I'm just blown away. I'm absolutely blown away. Hear from the leaders in the health and longevity and scientific community. Yeah. I'll ask Ted. I consider Ted an exceptional leader in this field. I'd rather ask Ted than many of these people. So, how much is in these satchels that they're actually selling? God, that's steep. Add to chart 188 and 31 cents. No thanks, I'll just eat a steak and have a bit of dairy. Thank you very much. So in one satchel is 100 milligrams. Okay, now let's check the food sources. Okay, Pentadecanoic acid, C15 or carbon 15 for the more literate out there that want to hear the word. Anyway, dairy and egg products, fish and meats. So since we're carnivores, we'll focus on those. Obviously, if you press the button here, you can include spices and herbs. They do have a lot, but you have to have like large concentrations of them. Well, that can be a problem with anti-nutrients, oxalates, and the rest. So sprinkling a bit, you're not going to get much. Let's put it that way. And nuts and seeds, we know, have shitloads of anti-nutrients. So we do not need all those anti-nutrients. So let's see what the animal foods can give us. Okay? Because that's the most important. Okay, I've picked 100 grams. Okay, so people know exactly, 100 grams is 3.53 ounces. Okay, remember 3.53 ounces of equivalent of whatever. So, what's the first one? Whipped butter. Yummy. I like things whipped. God, turns me on. So, 801 with 100 grams. So if I was to get, let's say, the 300, the top end, we're not, what sort of people are you? Supplementing low stuff and all that. You need to spend at least 180 plus or whatever, 300 divided by 821 times 100. So 37 grams of something like butter whipped. Now, whipped butter has because it has some fluids, it's actually slightly lower than actual butter, but they didn't actually, on this database, they don't have the butter content. but butter is the highest form. It's higher than this. So it's getting close to a gram because whipped butter has a bit of fluid in it. It's a bit different because you're actually, when you whip it, you actually release more of the actual, it's less concentrated. So that's another thing, just to keep that in mind. But it's not a hell of a lot, depends on the butter as well. There's a lot of, but anyway. Now, divide that by, so 37.5 grams, divide that by 28.333333. So we get the ounces. So 1.32 ounces. You'll get 300 milligrams. Because this is in grams. Yeah, okay. So I was told that you can't get enough from animal foods, apparently. Oh, well, if you're selling supplements, you need to say that, don't you? But this is my, I'm showing you the evidence of the database. This comes from, this database is not Harry claiming this, okay? This is My Food Data, and My Food Data gets their data from the United States Department of Agriculture, the USDA, okay? This is USDA government US data, okay? This is real data that's actually been collected by the government of the United States, okay? So you can jump up and down as much as you like as supplement companies or gurus and argue, but this is actually USDA data, okay? And they've got no reason, there's no reason for them to bullshit about this. These are measured nutrients. They send them to labs to take all these measurements, okay? There's no politics here. This is just checking what is in foods, stuff like that. Then heavy whipped cream, 353. Obviously, because it's got fluids, so heavy whipped cream is going to have fluids. It's got more water content, less concentrate. So butter is the highest, So when it's not whipped, it's just solid, you're going to have higher concentration. The less concentration you have of fats in the solution, that reduces. So as fat goes down, so does this fatty acid in these animal foods. So you get about some 100 of heavy whipped cream, you'll get 353. Cheeses. So cream cheese, 344 milligrams for 100, which is 3.53 ounces. Cheddar, all the cheddars are pretty high. So even the processed stuff, even the processed American cheddar is around 300 at 100 grams. So you can have 100 grams of processed American. I don't recommend it. I would rather you having good quality cheddar. See, you can see included foods for USDA food distribution. These are all USDA data, just so you know where it's coming from. So 100 grams of cheddar, you can get 3 times what's in the satchels. There you go. Okay. Swiss cheese, which is one of my favorites because it also is a good source of copper as well. So, yep. So you get plenty. I consume quite a few times in the week. Swiss cheese, and I actually stick it on top of my patties and let it melt. Nice. It's one of those nice cheeses that goes really well with meat, I've found. And that's why I buy it. Plus, it's got the benefits of adding additional copper, plus adding, heaps of this fatty acid, shitloads. So, that's another American cheese is basically cheddar. It's just called American. It is basically cheddar cheese. But it's just another one of those. Then you've got, that's the processed one, as they call it. It must be the concentration. It probably has less fluids in it, and that's probably why it is slightly higher. than this one. Parmesan, another one, pretty good. It'll give you that middle range of around 200. And a whole lot of other cheeses here as well. Mozzarella, nearly 200 for 100 grams, which is 3.53 ounces. It's very easy to consume that amount, or sprinkle on, some mozzarella on, on your, and that's actually low fat mozzarella, let alone high fat. It should be a hell of a lot higher than that, because they don't have the high fat one. So I don't know, because I've actually searched for it and I go, where is it? Not everything, is in the USDA database. Not everything gets measured. They'll measure a certain basket of foods that a lot of people consume. And unfortunately, in the general community, a lot of people are consuming low-fat stuff. So, mozzarella, I suspect, with the high-fat mozzarella is going to be better than some of the other cheeses. So, you can see it's all the dairy stuff that's pretty high. Then we hit pepperoni. So beef and pork sliced combination, ricotta cheese 100. So once we get down here to sort of buffalo 79, plain Greek yogurt 67 milligrams per 100. So if you're having about 150 grams, okay, so to get to the 100 milligrams, which is the base level, it's about 150 grams, 1.49% from the 100 grams. So you're pretty much looking at 150 grams, more or less. Divide that by 28.3 so we can get the ounces, which is 5.25 ounce. So a bit over 5 ounces will give you that base level, so to speak. When you come into the meats, T-bone steaks and all that, 47, 46, porterhouse grilled, 46, salmon. We'll stick to the meats since we consume primarily ruminant animals. Pan-fried beef burger, so against the patties, about 43, dry pork and beef salami, 43. Then again, the minces, the patties and stuff like that. And these are lean ones, so 43. You can see the more fat that they have, the higher the amount will go. So let's just say, for argument's sake, at 45 grams. So if we were to get 100, we need 100 milligrams. That's the base. We're not, let's say we're doing a lion's diet. We're not consuming any dairy whatsoever, because that's where the highest amount's going to be, like butter, the ultimate amount. Let's just go for the actual, butter we're talking about well over 800. So it's like at the 300, it's like 300 milligrams, like 3 times the upper supplemental dose. Okay. So it's, that's 100 grams. So if you want that at 33 grams, which is nearly just slightly over an ounce, you'll get all you need in that regard. Now, let's say we go for 40 milligrams, okay? So if we were to look at 300, which is the upper limit, we know 200 shows really lower in studies reductions in those liver enzymes and all that, but we'll go to the top. We want to be at the top, don't we, all of us? Because we want to follow the gurus, apparently. Anyway, so you got money to spend, good luck to you. So if you go 40 for that, that's 750 grams we're looking at. 750 grams to get the 300 from beef, having a steak. And that, divide that by 28.3 is 26.5 ounces. So minus 16, so 1 pound So 750 grams, 1 pound, and 10.5 ounces will give you near, so if you're to consume like 2 pounds, which is nearly close to 2 pounds is nearly close to a kilo. So 907 grams is 2 pounds. For that amount, for 2 pounds, divide that, and that's in everything, patties, steaks or whatever. Divide that by 100 times 40, where we know in certain it's slightly higher than that. And if you get more fattier cuts, it's going to be, because these are like trimmed to 0 fat. They've still got some fat inside them, but they're trimmed to 0 nearly. And you've got 50, 58 and stuff like that. So these are all, it's not the stuff that we eat. We eat more fattier meats. Okay. We're just talking in general here, how much you would need with the worst type of, fatty acid profile meats. You would still get with 2 pounds of the lean meat, which has some fat, you would get 360, nearly 363 milligrams of C15. Now, do you need to supplement? I doubt it. If you're getting that amount. Again, you're less inflamed because you're on a species-appropriate diet. You're not eating a whole lot of crap that's going to basically deplete because you're not doing damage, like on a SAD diet. You're getting excess amounts on, maybe that's why a carnivore diet would have longevity effects. But I can't claim that. Now, can I? Nobody can claim that because we haven't locked people up in labs for all their life to see what happens, to get outcomes. All we can do is look at the research. I'll just unshare all that. Stop sharing. All we can do is look at the research, like the archaeological research, the N15 data, which is quite clear that the majority of our existence, we had high N15, nitrogen 15 in our collagen structures. So we know quite clear that we were getting shitloads of all this sort of stuff. We don't need to supplement, guys. We get shitloads in the diet. So take-home message, if you're consuming a species-appropriate diet, there is no requirements whatsoever. You're getting more than enough, and some are getting far more than they require for this important fatty acid. So don't worry about it. And all the other nonsense they go about C15 and C16 and all that, that's just associated in a mixed diet, which is the so-called high-fat diet, which is a renal cycle-induced diet. It's an inflammatory diet of crap, which people eat primarily. So it's just nonsense. And you can get enough in the diet, so don't worry about it. Don't waste your money. You can get plenty from an animal-based diet. Maybe that supplement is useful for the general community, which has a very poor diet and are unwilling to change. That possibly has a benefit. I can't say either way because I don't have any scientific proof to argue that. There's a lot of associations that certain things improve, but I can't tell you that it's going to basically do magic for these people either, which some of these gurus have sort of indicated, have made some claims. I actually showed you their claims. I'm not making up shit. They've actually said it themselves. I don't think that the science is robust enough to say that, it is this miraculous fatty acid. But even if it was, okay, let's say it was, we get plenty on a carnivore diet. So on an animal-based diet, you're going to get plenty. So you do not need to supplement nothing. Our ancestors ate ruminant meat and they were healthy. and lived good, healthy lives, unless they were basically trampled by some animal, eaten by some animal, had an injury and died because of the injury, or, bacterial infections or whatever. But if they didn't, they lived long lives. And, the Maasai video that I did actually showed these people that were having children in their 70s and pretty much well over 100 on an animal, and robust, which is really important. Robust. That means health span. And that's what an animal-based diet will give you. And that's what the Maasai see. And if we follow such a thing, we should improve our health. Now, a lot of us, even like me, have done a lot of damage throughout our life. I consume massive amounts of seed oils, massive amount of crap. I used to have pizza boxes in my fridge. We're all damaged. A lot of damage we've done to ourselves. And it's only in the last couple of years we've woken up and realised the damage, and we're slowly reversing and improving our health. All of us. We're still on a journey. I'm still on a journey. Everyone's on a journey. But at least we've woken up and we've realised where we went wrong, or we were misled by the experts. Got to be very careful about the experts out there, because the problem is that experts have a narrow focus. Reductionism have a narrow focus and sometimes miss all the actual consequences of their actions. We know the type of, excess mortality due to certain inappropriate things that were done in the past, in the not too distant past. So the take-home message is you do not need to supplement carbon 15 odd chain saturated fatty acids at all. Get it from your diet. There's plenty of it in there. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. See yous.